group.
Yes.
The boomers, right, Amma?
No. I think Kina Jomo Kenyatta were more like silent.
They were silent? Okay.
Yeah. When you think boomers, think of our parents. Unaona Jomo Kenyatta is slightly older than parents were millennials.
So Kina Moi?
Yeah. Tuseme Kina Moi. Hey, really? Z.
Akina Kenyatta, Jaramogi, hao.
Them they were already in their prime at that time.
Okay.
You get? So hawakuzaliwa your time ya silent generation. I'm a boomers. Okay. Boomers are like the parents that we have when you walikuwa maybe in their prime in the 80s. You understand?
Yeah.
So when you walikuwa in the prime in their 40s, those are probably mostly silent generation.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the boomers are our parents. Tunawajua tu vile wako. They were very disciplined. They were very hardworking. They were in touch with their roots. Religious. Exactly. By the way, for sure. So the difference between the greatest generation and of course pia kuna the boomers is that the greatest generation walikuwa na traditional African values. That is what they lived with. But the baby boomers, they're those ones, and the silent generation ni wa Catholic ACK. Umona?
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
Black and pleasant and I'm beautiful.
Spice, Black Hypocrisy.
Manzeni noma sana Black Hypocrisy manze.
Big tune.
Anaambia mademi njaro ya kuwa wanaweka ma eyelashes, wanatumia cake soap. Do you know what cake soap?
What's that, bro?
Ile sabuni ya Cartel, Vibes Cartel.
Yeah?
Alitonga sabuni to cake soap.
It makes you light skin.
Yep.
Bro, I can never use that.
Sasa naambia I'm black and I know I'm beautiful.
Exactly, bro. Wewe unafaa kwenda Congo, Kev. You know I went to a place called Lubumbashi. It's a district tuko. Udadi unapata karao wamebleach.
Ndivyo niliona.
Ama wochi.
Hiyo nilinspire Michael Jackson Mkongo.
Come on, be nice.
I'm Tanzania.
But for me, I'm open-minded because I know I'm alive to the era that we're living in. Kev, people, men and women will do anything to look attractive to the opposite sex, and that is why these days unachiki machali, especially watu wako na receding hairline. In America nowadays you're seeing a trend where when my guys waneka chemicals, hairline yao inarudi fiti, so that you look appealing to the opposite sex.
Bro,
so
maybe kwa na Kiara ni vibaya. Kwa na Kiara inamaanisha you are aging gracefully.
Yeah, but unajua Kiara nyingine ikangi poa with the you need a
zing.
Nah, bro.
Ni self-esteem. Babes, kweli. Self-esteem.
But you need the right headship.
Uliona Trump mara ametoka kwa ndege imepulizwa prr.
Kev, let me tell you, I swear, if I'm developing a bald head, nenda state talk fanyiwa hizo my implant.
Hata okay basi nakusaidia. Hata unili kwenda huko basi.
Kuna mahab.
Kuna hub. Talk to me and you hit my DM.
You know Kevin is such an African and cultured man. Karibu sana lakini Empress.
Auntie, thank you.
Maybe you can just introduce yourself, tell people what you do. Alafu sasa tuingie kwa conversation about generations.
All right.
Yep.
Mambo.
Tell us what you do, where you're from, and of course your name. Start with your name.
All right. My name is Damaris Lubanga. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Chuchu.
And mi napenda tu life.
I like that.
Live life.
Life
is for the living.
Simplify.
Simplicity. That's what we used to survive.
Imagine napenda tu life. Napenda tu kusoma random things.
Nice. Unasoma nini sahi?
Nasoma kitabu inaitwa Never Go Back. It's about what do you learn from life. You know, how do you take advantage of the lessons you learn in life. So it's by one of my favorite authors, anaitwa Dr. Henry Cloud.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So yeye ndo aliandika book inaitwa Boundaries.
So you're a reader.
I'm a reader.
Tuambie tu.
Can you imagine nakuanga na Kindle library kwa simu? It has like 500 books.
Wow. You have to be my friend. You'll have to be my friend.
Umesoma ngapi so far?
So far maybe 10 because it is a new library. As in napendanga tu Kindle. I think partly because now the conversation ya leo ni ya Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
The youth can get so much from reading. Especially because now we can't afford mentorship, guys.
So what are the benefits of reading? For example, as a young African, how does it benefit your life?
It benefits my life. But you see, that's the thing, reading itself will not benefit your life. Application will.
Application of the knowledge that you've read.
You can read 1,050 things. Lakini what are you doing with the knowledge that you getting? Unadu. Like unafanya.
Reading ni
utaketi tu hapo. You think it's going to osmosize into your life. No, you must apply what you're reading. So you look for whatever you need, the field yenye uko interested in. Alafu unasoma. Basically that. It's changed my life.
But unasoma tu vitabu zote tu kitu yote na kama unyoe gazeti.
I love it. Napenda nasomanga anything that comes my way. for the sake of knowledge. Wajua.
I remember in high school my principal alikuwa nasamanga, one of the things we've noticed about Africans, especially kwa train, kwa mabasi, kwa mandege, we just don't read, bro, that much compared to like people in the Western world. Like no, it's kind of true, Kev. Let's call a spade a spade. Ukienda hata mashambani, hata hapa hivi CBD, bro. You just look at people going home, watu wametoka majob, people just counting trees and cars.
Mimi wacha nikwambie bro.
Ama Facebook kwa simu.
Ama we always on social media.
Facebook kwa simu.
Dama, ukitembea huko nje, unapiga round huko nje. 80% statistic inasema 80% ya wazai wa America, bro, wa miaka kuanzia 60 kwenda down hawajasoma.
What?
Hawajasoma.
How did you get these stats?
They are online, manze. Google, bro, one.
Is that true? They don't have a reading culture.
They don't
read.
Wa reading, manze.
Okay, compared to Africans, I think
wa Afrika wanasoma sana kushinda wa.
Is that true, Damaris?
Stereotype, like if you want to hide something.
Tu.
Umeisikia stereotype. If you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book.
Put it in a book. Thank you. That, bro, Kev, come on. If you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in a book.
Na sasa unaona, bro, hiyo ilikuwa ni narrative, ilikuwa inatumikanga kutu control.
Lakini unajua, the thing is, we're not uneducated. In this continent, not reading is not the same as being uneducated. Lakini unaona, for example, my youth, tunamaliza shule, alafu tunaenda to get government jobs, aki much love to government workers.
Vile tu.
Lakini self-development, personal development, ndio we are lacking.
Kevin, na hiyo ndio tumefanya Western world wamemove. Au washindi wapeleki watu wao shule, kusoma abukudu. Anapeleka mtoi wake ni mdeadly math. Anaanza kudeal na story ya math. Huo mtu unapata ukimwambia hata story yote ni Mspanish, ukimwambia story ya English, I understand.
I get. In fact, it's us wenye tunapanda these languages abroad. Do you know the rest of Africa? They just love their own languages.
Apart from wa Kenya kwanza.
Kwa sisi tuko pretentious.
So we are so Americanized.
Bro, we're so uncultured. There's no cultures in Kenya anymore.
Tumeachilia cultures zetu. Apart from Wamasai bravo.
They are the real Kenyans.
They are the real Kenyans. No wonder ndo wanapiga kwa picha.
Apparently, so they usually say, if you want to know a Kenyan, abroad, just look at the guy wearing that Masai shuka. Hiyo ndo sasa definition ya ile stuff. I'm your man.
Inua mkono juu utajipata home.
All right, so guys, let's dive into the conversation. Leo tunaongea story ya this tech generation, Africa's tech generation changing the continent, and if we're really in the right direction, vituka hizo, are they being impactful? Are we adding value? Are we being resourceful to the narrative? Are we being resourceful? To our ideal narrative, I guess. Are we doing things the way we're supposed to do? Are we changing things? Now, Damaris. Talking about my generations in this continent, in Kenya, for example, you're telling me, give us an overview. Umesema kuna different types of generations from the great generation. You going from which era to which era until bring it to the latest.
All right, tuanze. So the greatest generation is from 1928 to 1945. So I would say they're basically the grandparents of our parents.
You say 1928
to 1945.
All right.
They're also known as the traditional generation. And they're the gatekeepers of culture, basically. Juu walikuwa colonized. So these guys, they had only geographical interactions. So they're the ones who, they understood African culture because they lived it 100%. Hakuwa wanajua kitu ingine. No Western influence until, of course, colonization ili come through. Sawa. So after that, tukaenda to the silent generation. Watoto wao. So the silent generation.
Haoni akina mother zetu.
Grandparents wetu. Tuseme.
Wow,
right?
The silent generation.
The silent generation.
So this one is from which era? Which years?
After
46 to 64. Ni actually 46 to
65.
Hiyo ni boomers. Sorry guys. Pole, nimewadanganya. Greatest generation in 1901 to 1928.
That's traditional generation.
That's the greatest generation. Pole. So 1928 to 1946. That is the silent generation. Tumeget. So the silent generation sasa ni they also had, they were in touch with their traditional values, lakini sasa, of course, Western influence kidogo in terms of colonization. Walijua sasa indoor plumbing ni nini. Walijua sasa, unajua, they fought in the war pia. Unakumbuka hizo maklasses za history tuliambiwa when people used to fight in the war. Yani the white man walipeleka black soldiers from Africa. So when they came back, wakaanza Mau revolution and such. So those are the ones, the silent generation. So the usual, say wako in their 90s,
Ama
to
washa-
100.
ama washaondoka,
Most of them unfortunately hawako.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after that now we
So
have
ngoja
yeah.
Dama kabla
Yeah, yeah.
uliko kote. Mbona why were they called the silent generation?
I think it has to do with innovation. Really, I'm not sure. But you see, hata ukiangalia, they're quiet.
Ama niyo
There's not much that is known about them because there's not much recorded.
ama niyo juu walipata new ideologies mlame amekamnazo
Yeah.
na wao kujaribu kuzifight tunagira ama wakazikubali tu juu unajua ama au ndio makuka zetu tunaongelea tuna wazazi wetu wote wamebeba jina za Kilami. I think basi ndio kunatoka pia hapo.
Also, alafu me I feel like compared to the generations wa sahi, these guys, there's not much recorded about them.
Yeah.
What much do you know about your grandparents really?
Nothing.
Unless wakikushow.
Yeah.
Compared to us.
Na
We just see pictures.
We just see pictures.
Na ni moja moja, yeah.
Ni moja moja tu.
So it's like they had conversations, but the conversations didn't matter to be documented. They didn't matter
Exactly.
enough
Or
to be
they matter,
documented.
Kevin, or
Yeah.
they matter
Yeah.
katika dokumentiwa, but wale walikama ambao ndio wazazi wetu hawaku notice how serious those things were.
Can I give you an example that is interesting? Ulijuanga kulikuwa lion ilipatikana Buru? Did you know that?
When was this?
Kitambo sana.
Kitambo.
Yeah.
But you see, for me, my dad had to tell me that. Utapata wapi? Where will you find it?
Right.
It's true.
Haiko malini.
So a lot of our history is lost.
So after the silent generation, we're talking about what next?
After the silent generation, start to know our parents. For the older millennials, our parents were boomers, right? Why are they called boomers? Because after the war in 1945, watu wakapata watoi. So there was a baby boom. You understand?
People started thriving.
Kids were thriving. Sasa the war was behind them. Do you know the war devastated the world,
Right.
basically?
Yeah.
Well, both of them, World War I and II. So the boomers were born. So the boomers were from 1946 to 64. And these guys, they were traditional. And they are more in touch. They were in touch with their roots, lakini si sana.
So
See vile their parents were.
they were in touch with the roots, but not so much.
Not
But
so
this
much.
bunch of people, mostly ndo walikuwa sasa the pioneers of the Kenyan narrative.
Yes.
They were mostly our leaders. Sasa we're talking about people like Jomo Kenyatta,
Yeah.
Jaramogi.
Oh, yeah.
That generation, that group.
Yes.
The boomers,
Lakini
right, Ama?
No. I think kina Jomo Kenyatta were more like silent.
They were silent. Okay.
Yeah. When you think boomers, think of our parents. Unaona Jomo Kenyatta slightly older than parents were millennials.
So kina
right?
Moi.
Yeah, tuseme kina Moi. Hey, really? Z.
Akina Kenyatta, Jaramogi hao.
Them they were already in their prime at that time.
Okay,
You get. So hawakuzaliwa yo time ya silent generation. I'm a boomers.
Okay.
Boomers are like the parents that we have wenye walikuwa maybe in their prime in the 80s. You understand?
Yeah.
So when you walikuwa in the prime in their 40s, those are probably mostly silent generation.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the boomers are our parents. Tunawajua tu vile wako.
Yeah.
They were very disciplined. They were very hardworking.
Yeah.
They were in touch with their roots. Religious. Exactly. By the way, for sure. So the difference between the greatest generation and of course pia kuna the boomers is that the greatest generation walikuwa na traditional African values. That is what they lived with. But the baby boomers, they're those ones, and the silent generation, you are Catholic, ACK. Umona, the traditional, the Anglican Church, yeah, from Protestantism in the UK.
Yep.
Na pia Roman Catholicism.
That's interesting. Yeah, so then right after
So
the
wakashikwa
boomers,
na dini.
Yeah.
they were caught up in religious conversations mostly, right?
Actually, religion was a big part.
Because that was big for their character.
Exactly.
It determined how you act. You're supposed to sit upright. Unafaa ku respect your elders.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be prayerful. Tuka hizo.
Kevin,
Yeah.
ni culture. Unidi kuambuzi, usitukane mzee hapa.
Nah, but like,
Wazazi wetu,
Ilikuwa
bro.
mixture.
Yeah.
Ilikuwa mixture because remember the silent generation they had the greatest and silent generation. Missionaries walikuwa wamekam. So it's like culture is dynamic.
True.
So culture si ati hivyo na vile. If I come to you today, you can see how like for example the South Sea area. Musemanga hivyo. Even the influence of the Somali culture. So watu wanavadera.
Yeah.
Think about it so simply like that. So culture is very dynamic. Na culture, yani, it goes with the needs of the day. So our say the wazungu walileta Bible, and then also there was also the Islamic influence at the coast. Usisahau to history, and then of course now we bring that with the African traditional society. That brings a society that is mixed. So that is why mtu anaweza enda mwenye church alafu anasema nimerogwa or
generation mixed ama generation mixed up.
Niliambiwa by the way don't buy salt at night.
Boy.
Nasikia hivyo.
Yeah.
Buy Christian parents usinunue sauti usiku
because it's gonna attract what bad evil spirits.
Evil spirits.
Na pia usifagie nyumba usiku.
Basi.
Na pia mtungi usiku kabla ulale. Make sure umefunika.
All right.
Yo sijaipa nimelana wewe.
We are on MVP Report, my guys, and we're talking about generational changes in Africa, but also we're going to bring it back to this modern generation of ours and the impact that they've had. The tech generation, you know. Kumbuka, we are hanging out with Damaris Lubanga. She's a lawyer, and this is Pan-African Tuesday. Keep it locked, www.vibesradio.co.ke. If you are in Nairobi, maintain your frequency. It's 104.5. Good morning.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
Right here, 104.5 at radio. Hashtag Morning Vibes with Kevin Kevo Badman.
Kama kawaida, kama Damaris doing what to do best, manze, kupatia ma energy, ma frequency fine, manze, na vibration and fit Dama.
Exactly, and right now we are hanging out with Damaris Lubanga, and Leo Maze, tukona conversation ingine deadly. You know how we do it on a Pan-African Tuesday. We're talking about generational change, Maze. Is Africa's tech generation changing the continent really afar? Is the impact being felt? Are we adding value? Are we being resourceful to our narrative? Now, Damaris, tumefika hapo hivyo. I want us to go real quick, for baby boomers. What's the next generation right after baby boomers?
After boomers, the Gen X.
Gen X.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Gen X are basically from 1964 to 1980. So many of our the parents of the later millennials, ma Gen X. So what is amazing about this generation is they are very resilient.
Mina jijua.
Actually,
uko yo mixer?
I
think so, yeah.
Yeah, so they're the most resilient generation, they're the most daring generation.
You see, that's me, babe.
Oh, really?
Wewe
umejiona hapo?
Hiyo tu mali umesema.
So 60s too. How did they end up being so resilient and
daring? Because now that we're on the topic of Pan-Africanism, these guys, they witnessed firsthand the problems that were post-colonial, the post-colonial issues. Waka notice, oh my goodness, infrastructure iko wapi? Leaders really are not doing their best for us, unajua. So what did they do? They dared, and many of these people walienda, let's say, to the diaspora.
Yes, true.
To look for better lives.
Kweli.
Sindio? Na sahi, they're really making moves. All you have to do is really see how wanafanya, like they're taking the industries abroad head on. So this is the resilient generation. They took a step, and what is so amazing about this generation is they didn't even have the internet.
You see, that's the thing.
They didn't even
while you work hard without having Ubers,
Mandudis,
mobile phones.
Jafanya college dissertation on a typewriter.
Can you imagine? Now Lizzie do. Brilliant dissertation.
Amazing people. Creative people. So after that, tukakuwa na the millennials.
Kina sisi sasa.
Yeah. So us guys, I like saying we're the bridge.
Kusikia nyinyi mnasema nini kujihusu?
Kev, I mean, I also think you're here. Millennials. What's your maneno, bwana? You're a millennial. So what's so unique about millennials compared to Generation X?
So millennials, first of all, in 1981 to 1996. These people, what is unique about them? Tonight we are digital innovators. We are the innovation pioneers. Right? Napenda kusema we're the bridge between two worlds, traditionalist and not traditionalist.
Yeah, tuko hapo katikati.
Nini niliochela King kwa cassette. You guys.
Girl, Damaris,
right?
I feel you.
Kwa video tape, VHS.
Kevin, you're there. Wewe acha kujifanya old school.
Ndio nashangaa anajua video tape.
Najua video tape.
So sasa namwambia video tape.
Guys, najua Omopika box.
Waacha.
Tausi. Kuna nuru gizani.
So what are we
nuru gizani, unajua nuru gizani?
Of course.
Kivu ujui.
At the same time,
ilikuwa ni nuru gizani, si nuru gizani.
Kuna nuru gizani. Alafu at the same time tunajua iPhone.
So let me ask you, in terms of character, what was, because Gen X were resilient and they were also very daring.
Yes.
Millennials, how are we like?
We are very career oriented.
Okay.
Something I forgot to mention, the previous generations walikuwa very high on education. And the reason I feel like millennials are very yani tuko very unique is that we merge traditional values and also modern day values. Unfortunately, many of us are also confused about identity.
Right.
For longer periods of our lives, because atujafika developmental milestones are our parents. By the time our parents were 33, they were married, 5 kids, getting their first house. Lakini si tunaishi home.
Yeah.
You understand?
And how did this come about?
It came about through, first of all, like I said, like post-independence challenges. Really, nilikuwa nafanya like, I was just in Shags once, then I bumped into my grandfather's shopping list. Akiwa like, kila kitu kwa hiyo shopping list, as it was less than 10 shillings.
What?
Soap, bread, nini. Can you try do anything with 10 shillings? Hata pikia itakununulia. Seriously. So inflation rates went up. Housing costs went up. Student loans went up. So life is just a bit more complicated for millennials.
Yeah.
But the good thing about millennials, we're very self-aware. But the first generation, we're empathetic, but not really. Ironically, we are less empathetic.
Oh.
Yeah. According to studies,
we
don't care that much because we're just trying to survive, guys.
Yeah.
Gen Z are the ones that are more inclusive and allowing of diversity.
So Gen Z is from 1980 what?
No, 1997.
What? Okay, so
yeah.
1997.
1997 to
and
2012.
Yeah.
Only Generation Z.
To 2012.
To 2012.
Yeah.
So those guys are more inclusive. They're more authentic. They value authenticity. And wamekuwa the biggest advantage to study history and get the best lessons from history.
Let me ask you, Gen Z, what do they look up to? I mean, who do they admire in terms of like role models? How do they get the inspiration? Kwa sababu umesema they're very authentic.
They're very authentic.
Yeah, so who do they look up to? Like, what's their ideal? What's the ideal society? How do they go about their business? Kwa sababu I used to run a school.
Yeah.
And it was very hard to market to Gen Z. We were struggling to figure out to you wanapendanga nini? How can you market products to them? Vituka hizo yani. So from your assessment, Gen Z, what interests them?
Gen Z is different from the other generations because the other generations, they would look up to authority, right? But Gen Z wanajiangalia mwenyewe.
Wanatambua.
Yeah.
Hiyo ndio slogan. By the way, ndio slogan yao.
Gen Z are more they're more interested in developing a personal brand. They're more interested in developing what is it called? What makes them like their personal strengths. And they have really changed the scene when it comes to personal growth. They've really changed the scene when it comes to authentic brands. How do I know this? Umaya on a TikTok.
Of course.
If a video is more than 3 seconds long,
too long.
Yeah, because they really like authenticity. So they know whatever appeals to them and they stick to that. Nilikuwa on a videos recently where they said that teenagehood is actually fading away.
Teenage, what does that mean?
You see, teenagehood actually, to a little bit history. Being a teenager was actually, your time will come up like 1950s, 1960s. It was never there historically. Unajua hata in the African society, you're a young person and then you become a man.
Yep.
Okay, you go through adolescence and then you get into manhood. So the teenage era was supposed to be for marketing purposes.
What?
So they can market some consumerist goods to a certain demographic of people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Watu hiyo kuanzia teenager ni kuanzia 13.
It was just a market.
It was a market.
13 to 19.
Look at the historical, like even if you go to Mexico, wako na quinceañera, which basically means moving from childhood to adulthood. Same with the Masai Morans. Teenage ilikuwa wapi hapo? Z. So what is the Gen Z doing at this point? What they're doing is that they're looking at the influencers that impact their lives and they're shaping their lives after that. They don't have that awkward phase. High school, sijui funkies. Okay, they do because they're in the Kenyan system school. Lakini wakiwa home, they're free to be as individual as they possibly can.
Let me ask you, Gen Z, wanaangalianga watu kama kina Tomboya, kina Jaramogi, kina Jomo Kenyatta, kina Moi as an ideal? Do they really care about them? Do they look at them like, I want to be like that? Ama they don't care? Yani, non-existent people with crazy
wakona kina Kipchoge,
crazy views of life.
Wakona kina Babu na Mwamba.
Maybe wanaangalia kina Sakaja. Is that true?
I mean,
do they still look up to the past?
They do in terms of getting lessons, how to be better themselves. But you see, the thing about Gen Z that is not from any other generation, they're digital natives. So they will look at someone like Jaramogi Odinga, and they will also look at someone like Abraham Lincoln. They have such a wide platform.
Yeah, they can have access to all that
they
information.
Have access to, yes. They even know leaders that, of course, no other generation would have known before.
Okay, fast forward. Tuangalie siasa kiasi with regards to Gen Z.
Yeah.
Wanasemanga, Okay, Gen Zs are like, they're slightly above 18 as well. I'm out 17, 16, 18 hapo. Is an 18-year-old a Gen Z?
Yes, an 18-year-old I think is a Gen Z right now. I think ni kama from 25.
Okay, sawa. So kulikuwa na ile conversation ya mbona many youth didn't engage in the political processes like voting.
Election vote.
Gen Z wenye walikuwa naongea nao wanasema tu wanaenda kuiba, I don't even care, they don't relate with us.
Kwa nini ni vote na najua kuna kitu watafanya?
Mimi hata they don't talk like us. So could that be a reason why most Gen Zs are engage in politics in the political processes in these conversations? And how can that change?
Absolutely. You see, remember I told you Gen Z wanapenda authenticity. If there's something about Gen Z, they like authenticity. So the way previous generations have been more subservient to political powers and authorities, Gen Z is not the same. So ukiwa crap, watakwambia we you're crap. And they're you see the things that the Gen Z are doing now. A few years ago, they would have gotten us into serious trouble with the law. Unaget unaenda Twitter unaongea vile unataka because they've been taught the power of their personal voice. So they look at their personal voice as a tool for change.
And so does it mean for us to push an agenda for you to, let's say, come on, umesimama for an elective position, lazima sasa switch how you communicate your communication process, your narrative? Do you have to tweak it? Maybe hata upatane na Gen Z mostly on social media as opposed to the ground. Is that the reality? Should you now, I guess, act very youthful?
I think the reality really is just be not necessarily youthful, because someone ka Oprah, she still speaks to Gen Z at a sai. The point is understanding that authenticity is everything, personal branding is everything. These are people who are going to see you as you are.
What does authentic mean?
As in uko kweli unasema
when I'm real too.
When I'm real.
Kama Gashagwa.
Exactly. You said that is why actually I know you, as in you're true to who you are.
Kev. Uliona campaign hadi Ruto amepiga masneakers.
Exactly.
Amepiga Jagoka College, baba lao pia hivyo amepiga kapaf. Si ilikuwa na idea ni kushika generation Z.
Exactly, acha unakumbuka, like I said, our parents walikuwa Catholics and Anglicans. Sasa churches za saizi kina Elevation Church, kina Mike Todd.
Twende tu ile church moja inatambulika, lakini Ezekiel na Mackenzie.
Which Gen Z will you find there?
So ni nani hao walikuwa wanaendanga huko?
Gen X and boomers. Some millennials. Depending on millennials pia okay, they range from 1980 to 1993. So of course they don't have the same. Lakini saa hii kila mtu ako Elevation, Hillsong, Bethel. Unaona? Non-denominational.
Hold it right there. Wow, I love this conversation, Kev. Guys, we are kicking it with Damaris Lubanga.
And she's keeping it real.
She's being
authentic.
Being authentic like Reggae G.
Sasa swali hapa ni is Africa's tech generation sasa ni kwanzia millennials.
Millennials.
Is Africa's tech generation impacting the continent vile inafaa? Now, guys, I told you we're hanging out with Damaris Lubanga. She's an advocate of the High Court. Kumbuka pia leo ni Pan-African Tuesday. I'm your local energy provider, Otada the Beast.
And of course, Kevo Badman following up and closely.
Unaweza tupigia simu 0719012700 if you have any comments to make, if you want to ask Damaris a question. Well, phone lines ziko open. Twende kazi. Good morning.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio. From Africa to the world, Vibes Radio. This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
For an African to visit a European nation, an ordinary African to visit a European nation is like, let me give you an example my teacher used to use. It's like trying to milk an elephant because of the visa process. However, for a European to visit an African nation, most of our nations, it is like a walk on the beach. It's like going to have a cup of tea. But then that is not the problem. The tragedy is that now for an African to visit a fellow African within the African Union, the visa restrictions in many of our nations, among us, between our brothers and sisters, is like trying to brush the teeth of a crocodile. They came, divided us, and they have taught us to keep each other from each other. Them they're mingling with each other and making money and growing, but they have taught us to hate each other.
Positive vibrations on the Modern Vibes. Vibes Radio is the African Renaissance. Good morning, Nairobi.
All right, Mazet Pigesimu 0719012700. Lines are open. Minato Kev, and of course Kev Badman is also here. We are Morning Vibes. All right, let's talk to an MVP. Vibes, good morning. Hello.
Kev Badman.
Niaje bro?
Mimi niko Wagwan.
Niambie jo kaka.
Ni extraordinary hapa kutoka Italy.
Sema bro, kuna comment gani?
Mimi conversation imenibamba sana. Mimi ni Gen Z.
Wewe ni Gen Z, eh? Wacha nikuulize. Are you authentic? Wewe ni mreal, wewe ni true.
Authentic, yani wewe bonga vile iko.
100%.
Au fichi mamambo.
Hapana.
Na yo kupeleka kwa mangori pia.
Hapana.
Good stuff sasa.
Ukielewa, ukijirada.
Yeah.
Inakuwa tu easy.
Sasa maze big up extraordinary, that is a Gen Z. Bomba Sharia all the way kutoka Karibu sana Bobby, uko fiti?
Gote hapo Gishuguma.
Wage vimbo sako fiti manze, na follow hiyo show manze, na hope inakupandisia.
Sindo hiyo sasa mimi nimesikia generation yangu manze ni
yako ni generation ya wazee.
Sindo hiyo sasa.
Nice one. Asante sana my brother. Big up on yourself. Bob pia amesema he's a Gen Z. Vibes Radio, good morning.
Good morning Vibe.
Karibu sana my African brother. Unaitwa nani?
Mimi naitwa Larry.
Larry, are you which generation do you represent?
Manze mimi na authentic.
Now like Gen Z. Asante sana my brother. Big up on yourself. Larry. Vibes Radio, good morning.
Nice.
Hello. Oh my God. Yeah, you may land. 0719012700. Give us a call, guys. We are talking about generational changes in Africa, and if I told Gen Z, and of course the Alpha, the Alpha what? The Alpha generation. If I told them been impactful. OCS
Alpha.
Man, lie no cat. Good morning, OCS.
Woza Gen Z asapa. Meru to koloke.
Sawa, my Gen Z, big up on yourself. Blackwave kutoka Moya Yego, you gotta let go. Nyaji, good morning Blackwave.
Good morning Kevo.
Tell us your generation.
Generation yetu ni Gen Z. Salimia wakili hapa, but the best thing about Gen Z, wase ni magogeta.
Oh really? Kuliko Generation X?
Wase. Kuliko Generation F juu.
Juu?
Hii generation ndio wanatafuta mali wazi wadogo.
Sasa wanatumia alafu pia wako na resources, vitu kama internet.
Alafu wanaweza kusocialize na watu, na hiyo ndio social capital.
My brother, uko rada. Good stuff.
Ndio hiyo.
Sawa, asante sana. I love the passion. Mtu anapiga simu anasema,
mimi Generation Z.
Wapi millennials? Millennials are busy working. So they say millennials are into their career.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're not calling. I'm curious. Kiguru is which generation?
Kiguru. Kiguru ni Generation X.
Good morning. Kiguru, good morning.
Guy is the guy.
Yo Kiguru, generation yako ni gani?
Sasa sisi ndio tuliwafungia millennials.
Ati nyinyi ndio mlidu?
Tulifunga millennials. Wanaitwa millennials.
So when you Gen Z, bro?
Sasa Kevo. So wataka kuniambia ulikuwa hapo?
Bro, I'm a millennial Buddha.
Si tuko kimoja.
Tuko sawa basi. Sisi ndio kutambua kitu.
Ndio.
Of course, asante sana Kiguru. Let me keep it moving. Vibes Radio, good morning. Hello. Karibu sana my African brother. Unaitwa?
Naitwa Chalo from Mombasa, Nyeri.
Good stuff. Which generation are you, Chalo?
Gen Z kama kawaida.
Gen Z. Mark D kutoka Kingongo. Good morning. Mark. All right, Mark, inakaa umekata kuongea. You know what? We're coming back to wrap up this conversation. Right now, I'm going to leave you with some Kathy Matete. Anasema, no retreat, no surrender. This is your time, African. You cannot surrender no matter what. We're hanging out with the one and only Damaris. That is Damaris Lubanga. She's an advocate of the High Court, talking about Africa's tech generation. Are they really changing this continent? Twende kazi. Good morning. Keep it locked and don't.
This is the Modern Vibes on Vibes Radio.
but you haven't really told us about the Alpha generation.
Yeah.
Talk about it as we wrap up this conversation, and what really characterizes this Alpha generation, and then we can talk about just generally, young Africans. Are we really living up to our full potential? Are we changing the narrative? Are we taking ownership of our narrative? Are we the young leaders that we are supposed to be?
All right.
Yeah.
So the Gen Alpha is the last generation that we know of for now. There are those who are born from 2013 to an expected maybe 2024. That's the expected range, but I think it's much more.
Yeah.
So the Gen Alpha, not much is known about them. Of course, they're 10 years old right now. But from what they, if the Gen, if Gen Z was the limitless generation, then I don't even know. I think Gen Alpha would be the infinity generation.
Oh, I like
because these people are finding themselves at 10 years old. But they're characterized by their logical aspect.
Very logical.
They're very logical. They question everything.
Yeah.
Manze,
Question everything.
Kev, you have young kids.
Yeah.
Even me, I have 2 babies. Wanabonga.
Exactly.
So they're very expressive.
They're very expressive and they question everything.
Yeah.
Why
do I have to go to school?
Yeah. Why?
Where is
many
Jesus?
kids, they do that, exactly.
Ujamini hapo kwambia mtu wangu ajue shule. Niambia dad, jua kitu moja, usipoenda shule makarao watakuja wanishika.
Ulikipitril tu.
Makarao watanishika.
Hako nataka kwenda.
Kusoma
I was being
na
told that.
tangu sikio aje cha kusoma. Dadi ashikwe.
In fact, when it comes to even this generation, they're so self-aware wanaongea maneno ya mental health at 10 years old. There's one iliambiwa, a 7-year-old told the mom, "Your beating men is not good for my mental health."
What?
Yes.
Anajua already that is
they know there's a problem because they are so exposed to the world. Those ones, they don't understand anything before the internet.
For me, nilicheki during the previous elections. Mtoi maze, these little babies, alikuwa kituka 7-8 years old. Yeah, alikuwa ananiambia vile, did they steal from Raila the elections?
Actually, I was also asked that.
Bro,
by children.
Uliona ule mtoi kwa kamem fulani amebeba mawe. Kanapiga raundi, kanaulizwa unaenda wapi? Maandamano.
Kisumu, ilikuwa Kisumu.
Na hata hajui kubonga fiti, lakini ana understand.
Amebeba mawe.
Do you realize in the generation that they may land on Mars?
Inakubalika.
That's the point.
Inakubalika. Unacheki toi Kev. Hebu cheki, mimi mtoi wangu simu alifanya nikikadi mapassword kaa 3.
At how old?
Mtoi
alikuwa how old? Alikuwa 6.
Boy wangu 6 years mazeni ni msharp tu vibadi. Nikienda kufungua simu lazima nikae zile za hivi.
Because they can see.
Yoyo anasijui aje.
So when you're saying to you one is in a Mars, what do you mean?
You of course you know about the Mars exploration.
Yeah.
So
with kina SpaceX.
Yes, so SpaceX wants to take a person to Mars.
A real person.
That may be a Gen Alpha.
It has to be a Gen Alpha.
Yeah, because they're so inquisitive. They're not bottled up. Unaona? So that I feel like it's more limitless than the Gen Z.
All right, so let's talk about them, this young generation, kutoka kwa Gen Z, I guess, ata millennials. But let's just start Gen Z. Are they living up to their full potential? Are they changing their narrative? Because we're looking up to them. We're looking up to these kids, this youth, to get out there and maybe do things differently compared to vile wa koloni waliletezo narratives hapa hivi. Maybe look at leadership differently, probably change our governance system, maybe take care of the environment better, help tackle issues kama corruption. I mean, look at even whatever's happening in West Africa. I know that's a slightly older generation, but it's still youthful. Millennials. So are they living up to their potential? Our guys, are we equipping them with the, with the knowledge to bring out their best, the full best self?
Sasa, actually, ironically, the Gen Z, they're crumbling under our expectations because for the first time, wanajulikana like they have everything.
Yeah.
They have the internet. Life is generally easier sahi. Unajua, like wako na hata maneno ka Uber. Who on earth had that? So they are not living to the expectations because one, they're crumbled under expectations of the previous generations. That is one. And number 2, kuna kitu inaitwa ageism.
Walai, kwanza that one in Africa. It's crazy, manze. Tunadharau watu hivi.
Yeah, and so tuna limit their potential. But all factors considered, they are still breaking barriers. Bado wanaitwa the limitless generation. That is their name. Because wakona all this access to the internet. They have all these resources. For example, mtu anaweza create an entire career from their bedroom. From TikTok.
In his boxers.
Kama
exactly.
It makes so much money.
There's this quote niliona ilinichekesha. As in, do you realize that a random cat on the internet will be more richer than you?
I believe that.
Unaona? A random cat.
Ilipita tu.
Iko na followers
4 million views.
But so at the same time Joe, Dama tukibonga hii story, ukiangalia in a different perspective, tunafanya hii generation, tunaongelea side generation Z, to X na Z, to Alpha, ni kama akina millennial ambao pia na wazazi wetu ni kama tu wa gate. So unapata vijana wana didishwa wengi sana, na wengi ni peer pressure, na wengi wanajaribu kujibonga. But ni kama set to understand. So unapata wengi wamejaa jela sahi,
depression.
Wengi ndio wako na depression. Juu understand vile budaki hamuelewi.
You don't get me. I'm running away.
Exactly.
So we Damu unaweza sema kwa wazazi wao uko nao watu hii, unaweza advise wadu nini?
I feel like hata kujua hii the different generations, you understand where someone is coming from. I think acceptance, number one, is the most important. Let's accept each other. Let's stop projecting our values on others. Let's accept people for who they are. And let's practice listening. Yeah, let's practice listening to understand, not listening to hear.
Do you think that's what the government is doing when they're dealing with this massive generation of humans?
No. Quite honestly, they're not. And with all due respect, because sasa they have, first of all, the government, are from a specific generation. So first of all, they need to have inclusivity so that these younger generations can also join government. We should have a Gen Z there talking about youth matters, because to be honest, I always understand matters of my youth if you have left that generation already, or if you're a youth in a different generation.
That's one thing I like about the previous government, because of your position as CAS. We saw a lot of millennials there, and even quite one or two Gen Zs. So that's not the case. Ukiangalia serikali ya Ruto.
Mimi nilikuwa nataka kuuliza, sio kuna sijui maili kama na Kibaki ama ile kama na former Uhuru, kuna youth president. Nadhani ushachikiwa oka kijana fulani ready kwa kuangana na entourage.
There's even a youth parliament.
Kuna youth parliament. Unagate. Do you think the government of the day inafaa kuweka a mechanism iwapate kipaumbele na iwapate a voice kwa society, ikuwe ni media house na wakava au kitu kama ndio at least waanze kuji-express vile inakaa, ama hizo ni stories za jaba?
Hii gava inafaa, as in many developed countries they do that, because kusema kweli the youth are part of the demographic.
In fact there are many.
Kwanza Africa. In Africa tuko warm. The most are people under the youth bracket in the constitution, under 35. So the government would do well to take these people's opinions. Lakini inaanza na, how do you see the value of someone else? Unaelewa? You have to see the value of someone else so that you can at least even take them seriously.
Kwa hiyo ndio tuanze sisi wenyewe.
Tuanze, lakini I think it's kila mtu. Sisi tuanze kuji-exert, now waanze kututake seriously.
What about the corporates? Corporates, are they really changing how they go about especially working, having their workforce looking very young, Gen Zs, I guess, millennials? Are they doing the right thing to bring out the best, to bring out the best in their workforce, the very young workforce? Are you impressed with what you're seeing in Wall Street here, Nairobi?
Actually,
because I've seen, it's interesting, Damaris. I've seen many young guys that are saying, you know what, Kev, I can never work for more than a year. I'm out, bro.
They're
I'm out.
The vibe
I don't
is
like
wrong.
my boss. He doesn't understand me.
The vibe is wrong.
Our corporates are living up to the times. Are they making changes? Because I've seen many leaders out here who are actual bullies. Not because they want to be bullies. They're perceived to be bullies simply because they don't understand that this generation are just different.
Exactly.
This Gen Zs, millennials, are just different, bro.
They're different.
You can't force an agenda on a young Kenyan.
So, the corporates that are progressive are, especially our international corporates,
the Googles,
they are in fact, lakini public sector guys, the public sector, zibado, because you can go there and find Gen X. In fact, there's a TikTok that was going around. I was saying that Gen X have kept every single resource. Hao ndio wako civil servants. Ukienda Ardhi House ndio hao. Ministry of Health tena.
Na wanataka kuretire.
Na wataki.
Wanasema
na wakiretire wanacha watoto wao. It's generational, literally. Unaona? Yeah. So I think you asked one final question. Iyo maneno ya, are we changing the tech space?
Right.
Did you know that we are one of the best in Kenya? Tuongea Kenya. We are one of the best ecosystems when it comes to startup ecosystems in terms of fintech. So in my practice I deal with fintech.
Fantastic.
Yes, so I am seeing more young people in this space. So ironically, the fintech space in Africa is supposed to come up, yani we're moving towards a Pan-African payment system, a Pan-African financial system, which means mixed payment between countries within the continent faster, more effective,
and secure.
Like we were talking about the mobile banking.
Mobile banking, yes. So mobile banking is just one of them. Fintech is so wide. Kuna fintech za agriculture, kuna fintech za healthcare.
Wasa in a layman language, you fintech. Ngoja si una
I understand fintech.
Wewe. Lakini kuna listener wangu. I get what's a fintech?
Fintech is financial technology.
Period.
Umesikia?
Exactly, yes.
That's
so
not so hard.
We're actually one of the best.
I
think Millionaire Study we're like number 4
in terms of infrastructure
and opportunity.
And opportunity
for investors here. I mean, from the legal side, we have a very good regulatory system for investors here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit rigorous, but tuko somewhere.
Yeah.
We have the Data Protection Act that provides, data security as we're doing this fintech manenos.
I hear many people saying that's where there's a lot of opportunity, especially at a time when there's like an unemployment crisis in the country. Would you encourage as we maliza this conversation, would you encourage many young Africans, what were the alpha generation, Gen Zs, and also millennials here?
Yeah.
Would you encourage them to always jump onto the tech space? Get in there. But there's a lot of money there to make.
There's a lot of money. If you see, tech is also it's wide. It's data protection, it's AI, it's Bitcoin,
AI.
And it's fintech. So you can jump onto it. And the thing about millennials, some later millennials and Gen Z, they're very entrepreneurial. So you create opportunity.
Like vile Damana bonga fit sana. Sana Damani kuulize. Kasa hiyo unapata the world outside manzi. Wako wameenda na history ya tech mbaya sana. Wako na AI. Wanafundisha watu wao kutoka early childhood sahi kuli mambo ya tech. Unanigeti? Ukikama hapa kwetu masomo yetu tuko bado kwa Abu Kudu. Hawa tu hii bro Kev watakama hapa ni mambo za AI. Huku ndo zina control program, ndo zina run madinga huku, lakini hauna mtu yeyote amezisomea, anaweza zi control. In our education system, unathink wanafaa wadu nini?
Unajua, we like to demonize our education system, which was actually very knowledge. And sorry, it was like you were just absorbing knowledge. You are not creating knowledge. So now we need to also understand that maneno ya CBC may come. So CBC is helping people be more technical.
Right.
Like nimeona kuzo yangu Shags anapika mandazi, he's 10 ama 8. By the time this person is 16, they can open their own business.
Dama, the way the world is going as we speak.
As we wrap up,
tunongia story ya tech. Tunongia mambo ya tech. Tech ndio nakam take over the world. Ma Bitcoin, ma crypto nini currency, ndio zina take control sahi. But mtoi wangu anafundishwa kupika mandazi.
Exactly. But unajua inaanza.
Somebody has to cook the mandazis.
No.
Me I'm like, mtoi wangu ndio kufundishwa kujenga saa.
No, itaanza. We have to start somewhere.
Unajua
tena culture is progressive, tutafika.
Don't be worried.
Sioni step wanaweka.
Unaona ma youth wanafanya coding sahi. So many people are into coding right now. In fact, there are 10-year-olds who do coding. They build apps. Kutukuna inaitwa, there's something called the Nairobi Innovation Week.
I know it. I actually attended it.
And you attended and you see what's happening. It's progressive. It'll change with the generation whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
To believe generation future, generation alpha
and their children
watakuwa better.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we've been hanging out with Damaris Lubanga, advocate of the High Court of Kenya, talking about generational changes and the impact that they've had in the continent, specifically the tech generation, kwanza millennials until the alpha generation. Imekuwa real. Thank you so much, Damaris. Knowledge for days. What? I've learned a lot. I actually like listening to you. Good stuff. Kev, which is the greatest generation? Your era yao ilikuwa kutoka 19? No, Kev, kutoka 19?
Generation tutupa.
1901.
Na tambo ya silent generation.
All right,
1902 hadi 1940 what?
1928, bro. Good morning, guys. Keep it locked. Tunarudi hapa na mjadala kwa public opinion.
Vibes Radio from Nairobi to the world. Africa, arise. Vibes Radio.